This is HCP Aftermath. This is Cali X. That's D-Style Boxing. And we are back another Monday morning or Monday afternoon, depending where you're at. D-Style. We had an odd weekend of boxing. This was an odd weekend of boxing. And, you know, the event that was the most talked about event of the weekend, it certainly lived up to its expectations in its billing. But we had a lot of fights, some that flew under the radar. Casimiro won. Sims Jr. versus Akhmedov was a great fight. That was the fight of the weekend, one of the best fights of the year. Janibek had a knockout. We'll talk about that and that stoppage that was probably too late in the Rolly Romero stuff as well. How you feeling coming off of this past weekend?
I tweeted about it. I said, this weekend's boxing. One ref almost got a man killed, and the other ref stole a man's dreams. Right? I mean, that's pretty much that wraps up this weekend. That describes this weekend. And sometimes when you give us a clown show, all we could do is laugh, even though it's like sad. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many layers to it, but what can we do but just laugh at what's going on? You know, I think what we saw, and I'll start off with the Janibek fight. And by the way, shout out to Maloney, great win. I thought he looked good. Okay, I can never. I got to do the same with the Maloney brothers, like the Jamal. I got to start remembering who's Andrew and who's. But either way, and I should know, by the way, but it's whatever. But shout out to him, and we'll talk.
That's a good win, by the way. It wasn't entertaining, but it was a good win.
It was a really good win, and I think you know what it showed us. Look how good he looked boxing wise, and look how he was neutralized by Inoue, right? Inoue neutralized Maloney. Maloney couldn't do anything. Maloney would blink and get jabbed in the face. He would like faint and get hit with a straight. Like he couldn't do anything, right? And look how good he looked in this fight. So shout out to him. You know, he accomplished his dream, becoming a world champion. So I just wanted to give him a shout out, right? Yeah. And shout out to all my fans in Australia. You know, I have an Australian, family out there. Shout out to you guys.
You got an Australian base. You do.
Yeah, shout out to Australia. But with that said, Janibek goes in there and beat up his brother. Like, just beat him up. You know what I mean? Master Janibek, you want anything? No! Pah! Get the fuck out of here. He beat the shit out of his brother. Just slapped him. I mean, he was landing. There's not a punch he didn't land. He landed everything. Jab, straights, an all-around offensive assault in that fight. When he first went down, Calix, to me, it was over. I shouldn't have been, but I was. I have to learn my lesson with Reese. But Reese's Pieces let the fight go on. Right? Reese's Pieces is like, I'm gonna let it go on. The first time was bad, but not terrible. But it was bad. The second time was terrible. And can I ask you a question? Lion Killer Podcast, CY, how you guys doing? What's the point of doing a sobriety test? I think we both agree that we hate it, right?
Walk to the left. Walk to the right.
Like, I hate it too, right? I do. But he didn't pass the sobriety test. So, like, why have them do it if when they don't pass it, you're going to let it go on anyway?
If you're doing the field sobriety test, I'm sure everybody's seen this at some form, and you're stumbling all over the place, you failed it. Like, just because you're walking in that direction doesn't mean you passed. He
gave him the keys and told him to keep driving, bro. I mean, I'm just like, what are you doing? If he's walking worse than a toddler in diapers, he probably shouldn't be boxing. You know what I mean? It's just a guess. At that point, Calix, you had a better shot against Janibek right now than Butler did with those wobbly legs.
It was about what? Yeah, it was about even.
It was terrible. I couldn't
No,
believe what I saw.
I
Jack
even
Reese,
I
bro.
even tweeted it at the time. Did he really have to watch the guy get knocked down the third time? And even for a second, like you watched that third knockdown, he was
Thought
about to
about.
start counting again, D-Style, and finally he just went, no.
He looked at him. He was disappointed in him. Like, then he stopped it. I'm like, did Jack Reese have money on? I think he had money on 3-6.
I think Steve Smoger like came out of the grave, and that was actually Steve Smoger. Like, you remember Steve Smoger? That dude did not stop fights. You were gonna get knocked down 12 times before that dude stopped the fight.
Bro, these were not flash knockdowns. These were not flash knockdowns.
What this did do though is it gave Janibek that highlight reel KO, right? And this is going to segue us perfectly into what I want to talk about. Really, what I want to hit home later in this show is guys are put in certain spots for a reason. And it's to make the A side fighter
look good.
Look good, but look a particular way. And Janibek, we all knew he was winning this fight. He's a 30-1 favorite. That's what it was. And we can't blame Janibek, because when we're talking about the middleweight division, we're talking about the tallest midget, right? It's the worst division I've seen in boxing in the 25 years I've been watching it. The current middleweight division. It's atrocious. It is. And it's an indictment on the division when we watch Janibek fight and we say, you know what? He looks good. But does he look – it's the same thing we said about Philip Herzgovich at heavyweight, right? They look good, but they don't look like the type of dudes that – historically fighters at the top would be ducking. Janibek doesn't look otherworldly. I was yelling at the TV the first round and a half is, buddy, tell this dude to throw punches, because once again, the same thing he did against Denzel Bentley's posturing, feigning. And I'm like, dude, you have a dude right in front of you who is tailor-made for you to just blast out of there. Just throw punches. You don't need to go through those motions of feigning. You need to get a body. What Janibek needs is what he did Saturday night. Highlight reel KO after highlight reel KO is Gennady Golovkin had the same issue a decade ago, D-Style, is nobody in the division wants to fight the dude. He's from Kazakhstan, much like Janibek. What you need to do in that situation is what Golovkin and his team intelligently did. We're going to fight the best opposition available to us. We understand A, B, C, D, E are going to duck us. We need to go to F. And we need to get there as quick as possible. Go through the motions, get to F, get him in the ring, knock his ass out. And that's what they're doing. You can't be 30 years old, D-Style, and not marketable and fighting twice a year. You can't. You got to be, if you're Janibek and his team, he did 4 minutes of work, didn't get hit once.
So the game plan... The game plan is not to be inactive for 2 years? Is that the thing to do now? You're inactive for 2 years now. You keep belts. You stay as a champ. You know what I mean? But in all seriousness, I agree with a lot of what he said. The problem for Janibek, though, is I agree with you. I look at him, and look, he's a good fighter, but I don't look at him and say, oh, my God, you got to avoid this dude at all costs.
He's a good fighter.
You know how he called out Canelo after the fight? Like, I don't think Canelo's like, oh, I got to stay away from that guy. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? But it looks that way.
If Boo Boo would actually fight, we would say, I could see those guys beating Janibek.
Yeah, that's what I was going to get at. Like Boo Boo Andrade, look, for some reason, have you noticed that whenever Janibek's in a fight, the Boo Boo Andrade enthusiasts, like the punch drunks of the world, like they come out and they start talking about how Canelo and Charlo and Triple G have avoided Andrade because they want to deflect from the fact that the dude dropped his belt to not fight Janibek.
Twice.
Right? So like you didn't want to fight Janibek, bro. So now, like, the boogeyman thing that he's got, it's Boo Boo's fault. Because it's given the appearance like, oh man, Boo Boo didn't want to fight this dude. Something must be up, right? And now I do think it is a case of like high risk, low reward, and I do believe that's why Boo Boo didn't want to fight him, to be honest with you, right? He was going to make probably around the same amount of money that he was fighting the guys he's an 11-1 favorite against. And he said, nah, I'm only going to be like a 2-1, maybe close to even on the boxing odds, and get paid the same, I'm out. I think that's what it was in this case. But it's all
he wasn't even a 2-1 favorite against Zach Parker, and he pulled out of that fight twice. I mean,
yeah, what are we going to do about that? You know what I mean? But look, I do think, I do believe anyway, right, that Janibek, I want to see him in some type of unification. I do wish the WBA belt, like, I think they should have maybe upgraded Lara and put Lara in the ring with Janibek. Why is Danny Garcia in the mix in a catchweight fight? What the fuck is going on right here, bro? Based on what? Like, what has Danny Garcia even done? Like in the last, after his Matisse win, what has he done?
No, but it's an indictment on that damn division. If you're a killer in that division, you can't allow something like that to happen. Hey,
but Calix, he beat Matisse on the undercard of Mayweather Canelo.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't done anything since that night. What has he done? Look how many years ago that. Look at what Canelo's done since that night. Look at what Danny Garcia's done. It's like night and day, right? I mean, what has he done? Who's he beat? Like this guy ducked Harrison. Oh, don't say duck. When Harrison fights offered, he didn't want to take it. That's duck. All right. Fighters do duck, by the way. I'm tired of people saying, "Oh, don't say they don't duck," and they do duck. There's fighters that avoid fights.
Danny had a good run at 140. Danny's run at 147. You know, he fought some tough fights, but he lost the big fights.
He lost them all, but now he's going to fight for a middleweight title.
And remember what they did last year? They gave him the tune-up fight at 154. And the reason they sold that tune-up at 154 is what? He's going to segue into 154. And then the next day, what do? They say, no, we want to fight Lara at 155. It's like, oh, okay. Okay, is that what you want to do? Okay, I got it now. It's more false goods from the PBC.
Yep.
We never expected him to be at 154. Now we're going to go straight to 160. Nobody's taking that seriously. You and I have always been the anti-catchweight guys. And we've been consistent throughout that. I didn't like that little 18th weight class that created at 155. My guy Cotto, my guy Canelo. I hated it. You don't do it. Fight at 160. There are 17 weight classes to pick from. Pick one. And now Danny Garcia is taking that, and the PBC's taking that. We're going to fight.
I don't get it. I just don't. I know there's people like here's what's frustrating about boxing fans. Boxing fans are the masters at false equivalencies, right? Mm-hmm. If I say, why the hell is Danny Garcia going to fight Lara for a middleweight title at a fucking catchweight? What has he done? Like, that's number one. Second, why is it at a catchweight, right? Cal, I've been consistent about catchweights for years, right? I never liked them, no matter who it is. But you know what boxing fans do? This is what they do. Well, Cotto fought for a catchweight fight against Martinez. Nobody complained about that. Like, first off, people did complain about it. That's number one, okay?
A lot of
just like when they make blanket statements, it's like it's so much to unpack sometimes, these statements. Mm-hmm. That's number one. So here we are. We got to unpack shit. I feel like I just left the airport. I'm in the hotel unpacking shit. That's how I feel every time people say shit. Mm-hmm. Number one, people did complain about it. Cotto did get shredded about it. Cotto did get asked about it in his fights, which is where the line, I'm not a real middleweight, came from. Why do you think Cotto even said that line? Because he was being questioned and criticized about it. But
when they asked him about Golovkin, I talk about it all the time. He acted like he didn't know English anymore. He said, "I'm not a real middleweight." It's like, dude, then why are you the campaigning as a lineal middleweight title then? Why are you doing that? You know, we called it out. We've said it. All right. It sucks. So all I'm saying about the middleweight division is, shout out my guy Nando. Boxing's boogeyman ain't a threat. It is an excuse. And I'm tired of hearing boogeyman. This guy's the boogeyman. That guy's the boogeyman. None of these dudes are acting like boogeymen. And these other fighters are creating a narrative in which guys like Janibek and Hrgovic, they're good fighters, man. We're not saying they're not good fighters, but I like Janibek. I like how the guy fights. I like he can knock guys out. I like what's going on with him. But is he a boogeyman? And
No.
when
Okay, I made a video, Calix, this a couple years ago. And it was titled Boogeymen Don't Exist in Boxing. Right? But like they do, but they don't. Right? So is there guys that get avoided because boxing is a high risk, low reward, low risk, high reward sport, right? So sometimes a guy is too good and not marketable enough. So like I do believe that's in large part why guys don't fight them, right? And like that is true. I don't think fighters duck fights or avoid fights because they're scared in terms of like, oh, I'm shaking in my boots, and like they see the dude in the lobby, like they'll confront him. Like, they're not scared of that confrontation or the smoke like that, but they don't want to. They know they're not confident they could beat a guy in the ring. They feel that could bring down their stock like this, and you could argue that's a form of fear, but it's just a different. Like fear comes in different ways, right? Not all fears like Scooby-Doo, like shaking at the sight of a ghost. Okay, like you know what I mean? Like that's not all fears that way. But I just wanted to my alarm went off, so but I feel like boxing fans are the masters of the false equivalencies. They say loaded phrases and loaded things, and they ask loaded questions that take so much time to unpack, and they know it does, right? So everyone just knows there's a difference in Cotto Martinez than Garcia Lara.
Yeah.
We just know, but then you have to unpack it for people because they're acting stupid, right? And acting like they don't know. While there's similarities and there was criticism about the catchweight, one, Martinez had already fought in catchweights. He was not a big middleweight. Okay, neither is Lara in this case, by the way, right? So, like I said, the similarities. But one of them, in this case, Cotto was a 3-division champion. Cotto had some big wins at 154. Like Cotto was, doing his thing at a higher level than Danny Garcia.
Yeah.
Danny has done nothing to be fighting for a world title at this point. And at this, I think Janibek Lara would have been a far better fight to make. A far better fight. I just want to make that point.
No, but what it comes down to is low risk, high reward, right? And all of these fighters are going to stay away from the fighter who doesn't bring much reward but brings too much risk. So what you have to do is do what Golovkin did. You have to continue to mow guys down quarterly until a guy has to see you. They just have to see you. And luckily for us as boxing fans, because I remember cheering for Cotto against Canelo, but we got the lineal champion that we deserved at middleweight because he eventually took on that challenge, right? And we eventually got Danny Jacobs in the ring eventually as well. But in order to get the reward to where it's even with the risk or above, Janibek's going to have to fight, and he's going to have to knock guys out, and he's going to have to come against whoever is the best opposition available to him and just stay in people's faces and become a marketable fighter. Mexican style. We all hated Mexican style, right? But it was marketable. He went after a certain audience, and it was intelligent, and he stayed in people's faces. Janibek's going to have to do a similar thing if he wants to get these fights at 160, because at 30 years old, not marketable, the fights ain't going to fall in your lap. And we hate that this is this way, right? We would love for this just to be a sport and the top guys have to fight each other, but it's not that way, unfortunately. So, and we saw that in the Rolly Romero fight on Saturday night, which I want to get to in a minute, but there were other fights. As you talk about, Maloney beat Astrolabio, and Astrolabio is a guy who is a puncher, so Maloney played it safe. Jason Maloney wins the fight, and eventually we're going to see that Nonito Donaire fight, I think, next. I think that's what we're going to get next, a big fight in Australia.
I like that fight.
Nonito wants to go over there. Astrolabio, frustrating performance for him because he's a puncher, and he just followed. He just kept following the boxer, not putting punches together, and that was it. Casimero also won against a tough, undefeated African fighter. So we'll see what leads to things at 122 for him as well. Don't want to spend too much time on these fights. Everybody can go watch them. Sims Jr. versus Akhmadov. That was a hell of a fight. I'm pretty sure you saw that fight. That was the fight of the night, one of the best fights of the year. A lot of people felt Akhmadov won that fight against Sims Jr. I didn't have an issue with the scorecards, to be honest. I had Akhmadov winning the fight, but Sims Jr. was doing some things to where 5, 6 of those rounds could have went either way. So I really didn't have a problem with the decision, and that was a hell of a fight. That's 2 warriors in the ring. What were your thoughts on that fight?
I'll just say this. It's a great fight. And Akhmadov, Dalio, however you pronounce it, sorry. I want to see him again. Like just keep putting them on TV. If guys give us great fights, win, lose, or draw, reward them by putting them back on television. Take boring ass fighters out of TV because they make people tune out.
Yeah,
the fighters that make people change the channel are not good for boxing. Okay, I don't care what anybody says. Okay, more action, more guys that want to fight, because at the end of the day, that's what we're watching a fight, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I want to say about that.
Yeah, and it was a good fight. Go and watch it if you haven't, because that's truly one of the best fights of the year. Just 2 warriors, and they were going at it. So if you like fights and blood, that was your fight. Yeah. Now, this is what I've been wanting to get to. I had a lot to say on it last week. Rolly Romero versus our guy Ishmael Barroso. Clown show. Just a complete clown show. And if you're putting on a circus act, don't be surprised when a bunch of clowns show up and a circus breaks out. And that's what you had on Saturday night. Just a complete embarrassment for boxing. I actually sat around for like 15 minutes after I turned the TV off, and I was thinking to myself, like, is this the worst thing I've seen? All things being considered. Them shoving this fight down our throats, them continuing to shove Rolly Romero down the throats of boxing fans, because we've been saying it for a while. I just put myself in this. I've been saying it since before the Tank fight. This guy's not a good fighter. He's not a good fighter. And not only is he not a good fighter, they're tricking people on his marketability as well, because this fight was in his hometown. And they were comping the hell out of it. People were in there for free. He's not even a marketable fighter. Yeah. So not only is he not good, he's not marketable. They're trying to scam the market completely on Rolly Romero. And I said it before the Tank Davis fight. I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that the market is this unintelligent. This isn't a good fighter. How is he getting the Tank Davis fight? You guys realize 2 fights earlier, he lost to Marinez and got a gift decision. For whatever reason, for years, they decided, the PBC, that Rolly Romero, we got to keep this guy undefeated. They hand him a Marinez decision. He looked like Bambi on ice against Yigit the fight before. He looked terrible. All of us were saying, this guy looks awful. He eventually gets the knockout, but he looked awful. He loses the Tank at 135. And the only extended rankings we have, D-Style, is BoxRec. I don't like BoxRec's rankings, but after the top 10, that's the only extended rankings we had. He was number 23 at lightweight going into the Tank fight. Going into this fight at 140, he was ranked number 34 at 135. So not only is he not ranked at 140, besides in this sanctioning body's, a lot of money's being going on. I'm just leave it at that. A lot of funny stuff with these sanctioning bodies rankings. He was number 34 at 135, not even in the top 30 in the weight class South. He somehow, and this goes to the Tank Davis theorem I always talk about. They build these fighters up to be greater than they are leading into the Tank Davis fight, and then they parlay their losses to Tank Davis into other big fights. And it doesn't take long. Matteo Barrios is the first fighter I've seen in recent history. He loses badly by knockout as the B-side on the pay-per-view and parlays that into another B-side pay-per-view in the very next fight in the weight class North.
Yeah.
Rolly Romero parlays a loss to Tank Davis into a title fight, a legitimate title fight in his next fight. And I had people explaining this away, like Al Bernstein's on Twitter again. Oh, we wanted to make the Puello fight. Alberto Puello versus Rolly Romero shouldn't have been a thing. It shouldn't have. This guy should not be getting a legitimate title fight in a weight class north when he loses a fight and doesn't fight in 12 months. It's embarrassing for everybody involved. PBC, WBA, Showtime. I understand why Leonard is attacking me, and Leonard's actually doing a good job of managing Rolly, because look at what he's gotten. Look at how far Rolly has gotten with no talent and no marketability. So props to Ellerby for that. All I'm saying is stop shoving your crap product down our throats, because Showtime, and I'm going over at the Showtime execs on Twitter, Showtime, look, you have to sign off on these fights. Showtime signed off on this fight. WBA signed off on this fight as a title fight. It's embarrassing. It is a clown show. This was one of the low points for me as a boxing fan. And like you said, there's a sad part of this, and we'll get to that in a minute, but it's laughable at the same time. And if you're a boxing fan sticking around, you have to come to the realization that we just have to have fun with this, right? And we've had fun with this fight. It's a clown show. It's meant to be made fun of. But one thing I know, D-Style, and this is the reason I do it. One thing I know about old money, and in boxing and their power brokers, is a lot of old money. They don't like you having fun at their expense. So I would tell boxing fans out there, continue to have fun at their expense. Continue to make fun of them, because they do not like that. They do not like, old money does not like when people have fun at their expense. So I would urge people to do that. But there is a sad part about this that I'll get to in a minute. But what are some of your thoughts?
Well, really quick, Remy, we appreciate it. What's up, Ryan, Rolly? We're gonna organically get to that, brother. We appreciate the support, but we'll definitely address that for sure. Thank you for that. Look, I want to make sure people understand what's going on here. Okay, I can't stand when anybody does something horrific or unnecessary, right? And they try to justify it in any way, shape, or form, right? Well, we don't want to do Rolly versus, Barroso, but we had to. We didn't have a choice. I mean, the guy tested positive PD, so we had to do the fight. No, you didn't have to make this fight. Like, nobody would have said, "Oh my God, what are we going to do without a fight, without that fight?" Like, nobody would have done that. You could have made the fight, but it didn't have to be for the WBA title. You know what I mean? You didn't have to do it. Like, that didn't have to be done. Like, so I'm done of people lightweight justifying shit like this in boxing, right? When you lightweight justify shit, right? When you try to lightweight rationalize shit, you know what it is? It's still a pile of shit. Okay?
Yeah.
It's what it is. At the end of the day. I mean, why'd you shit all over the floor? I mean, I was going to use the toilet. You know what I mean? But that dude was in there for 20 minutes. I had no choice. You know what I mean? I had to pull my pants down and just take a shit in the middle of the floor. You know, that's basically what they're telling us. There was no alternative. There's nothing else they could have done. Right? Nothing that could have been done. You got to be shitting me. Pun intended. And then when the consumer voices out our concern saying, "Yo, this fight's trash. What is this? This is embarrassing. You just brought back Tales from the Crypt. All right, you're gonna have a fight, Rolly, and that's for the WBO title. What the hell's going on over here?" Now we were making fun of it. And Leonard Ellerby didn't like it because it's so disrespectful. Well, why are you talking like this? People like you, people like me, who? Like people that spend money? People that fork out our money to pay for your fucking Showtime app? Espinosa. Remember when they did that trash pay-per-view in January? Oh, yeah, these guys, they don't want to support, but they call themselves real boxing fans. When you got to beg people to support your shit, we're boxing fans. You shouldn't have to beg us to support. Give us a good fight. We'll support it. All right? as it was proven with Tank versus Ryan. They didn't have to beg us for that. They didn't have to be like, come on, guys, support it, guys. They didn't have to do that dumb shit. I am getting sick and tired of the lightweight, rationalizing of the bullshit going on in boxing. I'm getting sick and tired of it, okay? I'm in my deathbed about it at this point. I'm not just sick and tired of it, all right? I am on life support about it at this point, all right? Done with it. You want to give us some crap shit? You want to feed us crap? You want to treat us like shit as boxing fans? Well, we're going to treat you like shit. Because you know what? We're going to be around a lot longer than you, Elderby. Your run will run out or it'll fizzle out at some point. I promise you that. That's a promise. Boxing fans will be around longer than Leonard Elderby in the sport of boxing. Mm-hmm. They'll be around longer than Espinosa. They'll be around longer than Showtime and The Zone and all these suckers. So we've outlasted all that shit, right? We're like cockroaches. We don't go away, all right? And then let's get to the fight. Rolly was getting his ass whooped, bro. There's no other way to put it. Okay, let me put it this way. Ismael Barroso was taking Rolly to school, okay? I remember before the fight, somebody told me, hey, he's got good fundamentals. And I said, and I quote, if he's got good fundamentals, he's going to give it Rolly hell. Mm-hmm. That's all you need to have a shot against Rolly. Just have good fundamentals. Simple fundamentals, and you got it. Rolly was slipping on the edge of this. Like, there's no ice in the ring. Why is he slipping all over the place? He's slipping. He's looked awkward. He got dropped. He was getting outboxed. All right? And then when he finally landed that big shot, like 2 rounds before the stoppage, dude eats it like an M&M, keeps coming. Rolly started running around the ring, okay? You tell me who was 27, who was 40. 40. You tell me, all right? Let me tell you right now, I was at a get-together yesterday for Mother's Day. It was my grandmother's house. And I had a cousin talking about, hey, did you see that 40-year-old beat up that 27-year-old? That's how they were talking about. And they had to help out this 27-year-old because the old dude was whooping his ass. Like that's what you're known for, Rolly? I don't even know how you could put on that belt and be proud of yourself. Right? How could you even put that belt on? Can't just walk around with it like he's a champ. How can you possibly do that? And Tony Weeks, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not. You know this.
You don't have to be. Go ahead, let it out.
It was so bad that corruption is the only possible explanation.
Yeah.
It's the only thing on the table. I'm sorry. There's nothing else on the table. There's no and believe me, I like to leave no stone unturned. It is a 1% chance it could be something else. I'll bring it. There's nothing. I got nothing, Alex. He hooked the dude up.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was instructed the moment you think he's in trouble, you stop it. That was an instruction.
Bad happens. What's the discussion? The debate is, was it incompetence or was it corruption? And Tony Weeks is many things. One of them isn't incompetent. You know, it may happen at times. And we've talked about we need fresh blood when it comes to refereeing or judging. And there's a reason we aren't getting those things. I think when people hear the word, and first of all, as far as the fight, it's ironic that this was Mother's Day weekend because it was Father's Day for Rolly because his dad was taking him to school, right? He was sunning him. Look, shout out my guy, Steve Kim. He actually called me 5th round of this fight. He's like, Alex, you were right. Like, Rolly is bad. He's terrible. This is really bad.
It looked like my 6-year-old uncle had enough of his punk 17-year-old grandson, right? Uh-huh. And was like, took off his shirt, let's go, and was just beating the shit out of him in the backyard. That's what it looked like.
Look, I bet Barroso plus 650 in this fight because I just thought to myself, look, I don't know what Barroso has left, but Rolly shouldn't be an 11-1 favorite against anybody on planet Earth. So I'm taking that value. And it was headed towards a Barroso win, which is why that needed to be stopped. But
bro, I don't think he was hurt.
When he got knocked down in that 3rd round, I think it was, I almost woke up my whole household. I was like, yes, there it is. That's what I was expecting. But Rolly can't set up punches. He loads up on punches. He's flat-footed. We talk about all the time when we see him on Instagram. He can't even beat himself shadow boxing. He looks terrible. He looks terrible on the mitts. He's just not a good fighter. He's just not. I'm sorry.
People want to compare him to Ricardo Mayorga, bro.
No. Oh my God.
On what planet, bro?
Steve told me something Saturday night. He's like, if Rolly's the type of guy that he's a type of fighter that if he was on the celebrity circuit, like the Jake Paul circuit, we'd be saying like, he's pretty good for an amateur, right? That's the type of fighter Rolly is. He's not to be taken seriously as a real fighter, right? He'd be good on that celebrity circuit. That's the type of fighter and what we expect of Rolly. But I need people to understand this. When we talk about corruption, I think people watch too many movies and they view it as a backdoor alley, and Al Heyman walks with his little brown bag and, quietly hands some money to Tony Weeks. What we have here is much worse than that. It's much worse than that. What we have is quiet corruption to where it doesn't even have to be spoken, D-Style. Al doesn't need to talk to Tony. Al doesn't need to talk to the judges. These power brokers don't need. It's already an unspoken truth. It's already an unspoken thing that, look, if you want to get to, because we talk about it all the time, D-Style, how do these referees, the same referees, same judges, keep getting the big fights? How? We know why. It's do me a favor here and you'll get the big job down the line. It doesn't have to come in the form of a payment under the table. It's a payment down the road. And it's something that was in Steve Kem's article this morning. Shout out to him again. Is fighters fight for today. Judges and referees fight for tomorrow, or perform for tomorrow. And what Tony Weeks is performing for is a future PBC date, a future PBC.
Yeah, but he might have fucked him.
I'm a savior fighter here. He's in trouble. This is the moment to do it because it looks like Barroso's in trouble. And poor Barroso, like I feel bad for him. And I'm going to talk more about that in a minute because there is a sad part about it. We're going to laugh a lot, but there's a sad part about this. Is the first thing that's sad is you can tell he's the type of guy, he doesn't know how to react, right? Physically, emotionally, when he's in that trouble. Like, this is the first stoppage I've seen where a guy that got stopped landed more shots in that final exchange than the guy that got the victory. He landed two. If you go back and watch that exchange, he landed 2 punches on Rolly. Rolly didn't land any of them. All right, but he's just standing there like confused. He doesn't speak the language. He doesn't have that type of personality. So Showtime's trying to pass it off. They're like, nobody's really. And then Showtime is especially bad because, I hate to harp on Al Bernstein, but he's like, well, he's a pressure fighter, but he's not throwing 66 punches per round. And you're trying to tell him, Al, he's 65 years old. He's no longer a pressure fighter. I don't know when the last time you've seen this guy fight. He's no longer that guy. That's the reason he's in there. All right. But the reason that Tony Weeks is in there in particular, it's the same reason Jack Reese was in there to make Janibek look good with the highlight reel KO and keep that fight going on, is they're there to make the A side look good.
Yeah, Callis, but those things can backfire though. Like 20 Weeks did such a terrible job, right? That I could see an Al Heyman being like, we can't get that guy back. He made it too fucking obvious.
No, I think you're giving him too much credit.
No, I don't think, bro, this was so bad.
I understand that. But you're going to see Tony Weeks again. Like I'm telling you, you're going to see Tony Weeks in PBC fights again. It may be so bad that they have to go through this with charade that we're going to give him a slap on the wrist just for the fans.
I don't know, man. I have a feeling we're not going to see him for a while, bro. It was that bad.
And then on top of that, I have people telling me we can't possibly see a Ryan Garcia fight next because Rolly looked that bad. Look, don't put anything past that team. They will continue to shove Rolly Romero down your throat. O'Hara Davies, he's supposed to get this shot with Rolly Romero within 4 months. I got news for him. He's out there saying, I'm not taking any.
When someone hires here's the thing,
Holland Davies would send Rolly Romero to hell. That's why he's not getting that.
Oh, of course. Look, a lot of I saw people talking about Rolly versus Progress. Like, bro, Progress would that's like throwing a Chihuahua with a pit bull. You know what I mean? But it really is, bro. But here's the thing. This was so bad. Like what Tony Weeks did was so bad, right? It was like an extra level bad, right? I'm sure he was trying to stop the fight. The moment he had an excuse to do it, he was going to do it, right? We're on agreement there, right? Mm-hmm. We all agree, at least me and you, that there's a silent kind of unspoken thing going on, right? That refs kind of understand what their assignment is, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, when someone has an assignment, they need to execute the assignment. You got execution is the key word. You got to properly execute it. You have to have some plausible deniability. There's nothing. There's no plausible deniability here. There's nothing. He didn't land anything. There's no plausible. Even Rolly came out and said it wasn't a good stoppage. If Rolly had to come out and just say, fuck, it wasn't a good stoppage. Like, what are you going to, there's nothing. If the mafia hires a hitman, yeah, the hitman has a job to do. Right? But if he goes and shoots the dude in the middle of Times Square and tells everybody who sent them, right? Well, that's not. Yeah, the mafia's gonna get rid of that dude. Like you can't. You have to execute it, and the execution really, it's not. It doesn't have to be perfect. You just need just a little bit of plausible deniability. That's all you need, and he has none. Nothing.
Here's the issue with what you're saying, though, is I think he came to the conclusion that, look, Raleigh's worse than we thought. I think the PBC, the reason Barroso was in this fight is they really felt that Rolly was supposed to steamroll here. And I had been watching the fight and said, holy crap, this guy's worse than even we thought. And because they know their fighter. And Tony Weeks is watching this like he's looking for the first possible situation in which he can stop this fight. And I don't know if that would have came again. Like, Barroso was dealing with this fine. He was not getting hit. He was fine. That guy was going to go on to a decision victory if everything is square on up and up. And the scorecards, too, people are out there saying, well, the scorecards were not good. 10-8 round right there, D-Style, after 9 rounds, he would have been down on one judge's scorecard by a point. He would have been up by 1 point on the other judge's scorecards. There was one scorecard that had it right. They had him up 5 points going into that round, which he'd have been up 3 points in a 10-8 round, right? So they were going to screw him one way or the other. It was going to be the judge's scorecards. And I told Steve when we were talking about on the phone, I was like, the most hilarious situation here that can ensue is if they rob Ismael Barroso of this victory. And I was thinking scorecards. I was not thinking they would stop it like that. And it ended up happening. And it's funny. It's hilarious, right? It's a clown show. We're not supposed to take this fight seriously. But here's the sad part about it, D-Style, is I don't know if you caught Paulie Maldonado about this on his channel. And he talked about it on Twitter yesterday. I don't know if you saw his film, and you're on mute, by the way, but I don't know if you saw him. It's a 1.5-minute clip.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
And he's talking about his first encounter with Ismael Barroso. It was years ago. And he's talking about how B-side fighters on the level of Ismael Barroso, they're signed by low-level promoters, managers, and they are kept on the shelf for a scenario like this.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the sad part about their life. But he talked about a specific situation in which he first met Ismael Barroso. Ismael Barroso is at a weigh-in for a fight he's about to fight, in which he's in a scenario that he was in Saturday. He's fighting an up-and-coming fighter, and he's supposed to lose. And he's over there bawling, crying. This is Barroso. He's crying, just bawling. And Paulie's asking somebody, who is that guy? And he's like, that's Ismael Barroso. He's fighting so-and-so. It's like, what's his problem? What's his issue? And
Ahmedov,
the guy goes on to tell him he was kidnapped by Venezuelan rebels and murdered that day. And he goes on not only to fight the fight, but he ends up upsetting the up-and-coming prospect and winning the fight while his wife was murdered the day before. And this is the sad about it is I see a lot of these content creators and they talk highly of certain fighters to where they can come off as pro fighter, right? And they're doing this specifically for A-level fighters, A-side fighters. We had content creators coming at us last week.
Or fighters that give them access.
Yeah. But it's also Jamal Charlo, right? We had content creators coming at us last week.
He's going through a divorce.
Mental health and his he's trying to get custody, and we're empathetic to that. But what we're saying is, while you're speaking up for these fighters, who's speaking up for the Ismael Barrosos, who aren't getting shots because Jamal Charlo is keeping a belt for 700 days without fighting? What about the guys outside of the top 20 at welterweight, and they can't go anywhere because the top two guys at welterweight aren't fighting each other, and the guys underneath them aren't fighting each other, and it's lock jammed, and they can't make their way up? Who's speaking out for these fighters? And that's my issue with it. Is my issue now is with boxing fans, uneducated boxing fans, is if you really want to be pro fighter, and these are the things we need to be doing. We need to get movement in these divisions. We need to get good fights on our TV. We need to get meaningful fights on our TV. And I understand that when I speak out against boxing's power brokers, I'm going to get back from what Leonard Ellerby tells me is, I hope people pull up on you in a fight. If you don't like it, watch it. I'll get Al Bernstein saying, we're actually putting on good content. That stuff doesn't bother me as much anymore. It's the people online and the content creators and the fans who have Stockholm syndrome who will cap for those fighters.
Yeah, look, a lot of it
is behaving like boxing fans and saying, I want good fights on my TV. I want these guys fighting. If they're not active, strip them. And they'll say that as you're being anti-fighter. But no, I'm being pro-fighter. I'm being pro guys like Ismael Barroso. And that's the sad part about this is this was a circus act Saturday night, but there was one guy there that is not a clown. His name is Ismael Barroso. He showed up. I don't agree that he should have gotten this shot, but he showed up. He behaved like a professional, as he does throughout his career, and he was winning the fight, and he got screwed again.
Yeah, he got screwed. And I want to know, like, where the outrage is going to be, because back to what Remy asked earlier, there's people already clamoring for a Ryan Garcia versus Rolly fight, talking about how that could sell. And like, look, I get that big pay-per-views are great and all, and like fights that sell are great and all, but like, is that really what we want from the sport? Is that because I want the sport to be successful? I want there to be big pay-per-views, but I want there to be merit involved. Like, I want merit behind. Like, I don't know how these misfit trash cards do on the zone, but whether they do good or bad doesn't matter to me, because that's to me that doesn't embody what boxing is all about, right? That's a bunch of trash fights, in my opinion, right? Whether Rolly versus Ryan Garcia, let's say could do 500,000 buys. Oh, but it will be big for boxing. It will be a success, and I'm going to watch it because Rolly's such a good talker. And you know what he is? He's a trash fighter. He sucks. I don't want people to watch boxing and laugh the way they laugh at this clown show that we saw on Saturday. I don't want people to laugh at my sport. I don't want people to look at this shit. Man, this is crazy. This fucker's a world champion right here. What? I'm sorry. I have high standards. Rolly sucks, bro. Like, I'm sorry. He's not that good. He's not top 15 quality. He just isn't. like when we're talking worlds before some fucking jackass, because it goes back to what Calix is talking about. Oh, you're saying he sucks. Yeah? Well, he's fighting professionally against high level. Like, shut the fuck up. Right? Bunch of sensitive little pricks.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm done having to unpack shit for people. You know what I mean. All right? The dude's trash. He's not elite, in other words. If you want me to rephrase it for you. He's not. Nobody would favor him against Progress. Nobody would favor him against anybody in that weight class. Worth the. Imagine what is he going to fuck with Josh Taylor? I would favor Teofimo right now against the dude. I would favor Ryan against him. It's a gift for Ryan. Will knock this dude out.
Teofimo will destroy him.
Good yeah, like I don't understand who the fuck could he be worth of anything at this level, at the world level. Who could it be? I'm not asking if he could beat a dude down the block. He ain't fighting dudes off the block. Mm-mm. He's a world champion. I repeat, Rolly Romero is a junior welterweight champion of this world. Numero uno. Well, he ain't numero uno, but according to the WBA, he is. According to the WBA, there was nobody he could have fought. There was nobody else but Rolly. It had to be Rolly. Tank Davis has the hand of Midas, bro. He's got that golden punch. And when he knocks you out, he knocked out, you said earlier, he knocked out Leo Santa Cruz. Leo he still kept his belt in the lower weight class. They gave him some time off, took as much time as they needed, came back, still defended his belt after not defending it like for 3-4 years, right? Shout out to him, right? But he fought Tank, though, so it's okay. Mario Barrios gets knocked out. He gets another pay-per-view slot against Keith Thurman. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Rolly knocked out. He gets a title shot. Ryan knocked out by Tank. Oh, look, he's gonna fight Rolly for the WBA championship. This is some backward shit, bro. Rolly ain't even UTEP. If I was talking about college football, all right, he ain't even that. This dude wouldn't even be in the conference championship of Conference USA. That's how bad he is. But they want to sell me like he's the Pac-10 champion or something. Mm-hmm. Like, oh yeah, he's that dude. Yeah. Like, no, he's not. Rolly's not that dude. He's not one of those dudes. He's Scooby-Doo. That's what he is. I mean, this is a joke, bro. And then Leonard Ellerby gets mad because people tell him the truth. Hey, Leonard, I know you want people to kiss your ass. Too bad. It ain't going to happen here. All right? Mm-mm. You want ass kissers, so you want people to say the truth. All right? And then if everybody in the media and content creators collectively call this bullshit out, they couldn't bully anybody.
They won't.
Now, they can't bully us, but they do bully people with taking credentials. People that depend on this shit to make a living, they do bully them. And I know you do, and we're going to call you out for it, motherfuckers. It is what it is. Too bad, Leonard. Have you smell what Leonard Ellerby is cooking? I don't like what you're cooking, brother.
Look, there's that part of it, too. It reaches even further, is the content creators who are calling this stuff out, the journalists who depend on this for a living, constantly complain about when they call this stuff out, they lose credentials, particularly when it comes to the PBC. They lose their credentials. We had people talking about this. Paulie Malignaggi was talking about this with Deontay Wilder. He's like, one of the reasons I got fired is Deontay Wilder was calling for me to get fired after the Tyson Fury fight because he has thin skin. And this is where we are. And they're going to go along with it because people need that for a living, right? They need their credentials. So that's why you get a lot of the stuff you get. But once again, we got news for them because we don't depend on that. So we're going to call it how we see it here, right? We're going to call it how we see it. It was a crap fight. And Leonard's going to get mad. And he's going to use intimidation tactics on just boxing fans. We're just boxing fans saying, Leonard, you might want to put on better content. Steven Espinoza sending his people after me on Twitter because I'll say, Steven, you're putting Showbox main events on Showtime Championship Boxing. You're putting Showtime Championship Boxing on Showtime pay-per-view. You're raising the price of the brick, and the content, the product is getting worse. And I have a right to complain because I pay for it. And they're going to come after you on that. So it's just a fun time.
Yeah.
We laugh at it. We point out where it's sad, and that's where it is. But going forward, they're going to continue to shove this Rolly Romero thing down your throat. Like, don't doubt me on this. They've gotten this far. If you think that Rolly looks so bad that they wouldn't dare do Tank versus Rolly 2, that they wouldn't dare do
They're going to do it. They're going to do it, Calix. That's what they're going to do. Look, you know what they're doing? Okay, the Kentucky Derby winning horse was Mage, okay? Right? That's the horse that won the race. Right? If I go to a restaurant and they bring me a plate with Mage's shit on it, right? And they say, eat this. And I say, I'm going to eat that shit. Get the fucking shit out of my face. It's shit. Mm-hmm. Now, this is some good shit. This is the winning horse of the Kentucky Derby. And you're going to eat it and you're going to like it. And I'm going to say, no, I'm not going to eat it, Mr. Leonard Allerby. If I could smell it, I know your big nostrils could smell it, motherfucker. This shit smells like shit. All right? I don't want to eat this shit. All right? No. Well, I see people like you always being negative. You don't want to eat shit from a winning horse. Oh, this shit is some good shit. Look. See, I'll taste it. Well, you taste it. I don't want to taste it, okay? And then you know what happens? A bunch of dudes show up to my table. Come on, man. You should be able to eat that shit. Eat it, all right? You should be happy with what they fucking serve you. It doesn't matter if you're the consumer. It doesn't matter what it is. Eat the shit. That shit is major shit. So eat it. Like, nah, I ain't gonna eat you nothing, all right? Well, you just want PBC to fail because you don't want to eat their shit. You don't want to praise them, okay? And then back to your Paulie Malignaggi thing. I'll never forget it. We had content creators on here, bro, saying stupid shit like, well, yeah, he should back up Wilder because he's with Showtime, right? Well, Wilder isn't the Showtime guy. I'm sorry, Fury's not the Showtime guy. Yeah, it's bullshit. He's not backing up Wilder, so get rid of his ass. Like, dumb, stupid shit like that is the reason why we are where we are, right? Mm-hmm. But week after week, Alex, week after week, I got to keep hearing, oh, everything's Canelo's fault. He's the problem with boxing. Canelo. Not shit like this. Leonard Allerby couldn't stop complaining last week. Yeah, these pay-per-views, Canelo versus Ryder. I'm not going to buy it. I can't buy it. I mean, it's not. Yeah, Regine Babe, I agree with you. Stuff like this is the problem with boxing right here. Damn you, Canelo. You say that when the next week you're going to put a Rolly on the main event? On premium television, we pay for that. All right? You're going to you gave us Rolly versus Tank last year. With some of the pay-per-views Showtime has given us, like you're going to complain. You're going to go out of your way to say, oh, Canelo's a problem. Right? No, Canelo's not the problem. You guys are there's a lot of Canelo Karens obsessed with Canelo. All right? Mm-hmm. But he's not the problem. There's far bigger problems than Canelo. There's this. You got dudes that haven't fought in like 13 months, 15 months, 16 months, 2 years, or one of them 700 days. They haven't fought at all. Apparently, the right thing, just don't fight. Like, if you just don't fight, like, Canelo just doesn't fight for 700 days.
No criticism.
He'll get no criticism, apparently. He could just chill.
Yeah.
But he's the problem. Oh, but what does Canelo have to do? Because I'm comparing him to his peers, right? I'm drawing a parallel. That's why. They always get triggered when you compare Canelo to dudes. They're like, well, why are we comparing, though? Why don't you want to compare? Mm-hmm. Like, is there a problem with comparing? Oh, but Canelo, we hold him to a higher standard. That's why. It sounds like a convenient thing to say, to blame one guy for all the problems in boxing. Right? Because at the end of the day, shit like this is the problem with boxing. Robbing Barroso the way they did is the problem with boxing. That man was robbed. He was mugged. And I'll be honest, I just think he was in shock when he stopped it. I think he was like, what? Like, what? Like, I just think he was trying to process it, to be honest with you. Then he's kind of old, so he can't, like, his cognitive abilities are kind of slow.
Yeah. And you really touched on the inactivity thing there, and it needs to be hammered because I spoke about it when it comes to pound for pound lists. Why in the world do you have a guy like Errol Spence? Canelo has fought twice since Errol Spence has last fought. And he's likely going to fight a third time before Errol Spence fights his next fight. We're rewarding fighters for sitting on the shelf. It's more.
Came out right and he tweeted, I don't know if you remember a couple months ago, I don't fight mandatories. I don't do tune-ups. Remember he said that? I don't do tune-ups?
Yeah.
And I said, well, you never, I replied, I said, well, you're not fighting, so you're not fighting anybody. So you're not going to fight tune-ups. You're like, so, it is what it is. You only fight it once every 15 months. So I would think you're not going to take tune-ups if you only fight it once every. And some dude started to argue with me, and he goes, well, I'd rather him be inactive than fight a yield drum. Right? And it goes back, like, why do we have to unpack shit, bro?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we should stop unpacking shit. Because you know why? Do I need to explain that? Do I need to explain that he fought 2 undefeated world champions just both 2 months apart from the Yildirim fight?
Mm-hmm.
Why do I need to unpack that for somebody and explain it to them like they're a child? Right? Look, if Canelo was just fighting once a year, I'll say it very slow for everybody to listen. If Saul Canelo was just fighting once a year and that's it, no more, then you would have a point. I would say, well, if you're going to fight Yildirim, well, don't come back at all. I would say that too. But did he only come back and just fight Yildirim in a whole year, Calix?
No.
Did he come back and he's only going to fight Ryder for the entire year?
Nope.
All right. So in what world, like, you guys are the masters. A lot of you dudes are the masters. Like, you're black belts at false equivalencies.
Mm-hmm.
Black belts. And get those likes up. Hit the like button.
I want to get to Mr. T's super chat here. Appreciate this. Rolly is the tuna fish in a division filled with sharks food. PBC will keep him bubble wrapped until he can be sacrificed to GTA Davis. And this was another sad part about this is 140 is a significantly strong division. I've said this about 115 and 140 is you have a bunch of fighters who are real fighters, behaving like real fighters, fighting each other. And on top of that, they sort of fly under the radar. You got your Regis Programs, you got your Matias, Josh Taylor, who on his way to undisputed pulls off an upset against Regis Prograis, another one against Jose Ramirez. You've got tough fighters behaving like fighters, and it's a fight fans division. That's another reason, like, a guy like me, a guy like you gets even more frustrated about this is it's not like you're bringing this type of energy to the middleweight division. You're bringing it to a tough division of 140, and you're hand wrapping and giving it to a guy like Rolly, who is, I mean, if we look up boxing clown show in the dictionary, it's his face next to it. He's a clown show. He is a clown show. And this is where we are. And I got news for people, D-Style. The reason they've gone through all of this energy to try to psyop the market, to try to trick us every step of the way for multiple fights now when it comes to Rolly Romero is to get to the end goal of making guys like Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia look good. Mm-hmm. And you could say, well, Ryan is not a PBC fight. It's not that. They can make a lot of money. Showtime can make a lot of money off of Ryan Garcia. They've seen that. And they know they can sell to a particular casual market Ryan Garcia versus Rolly Romero. They know they can sell it. And Rolly knows he can sell it. And that's what they're getting to. So if you think that this looks so bad on Saturday night that this would be beneath PBC going on even forward and putting on a fight like that. And, they'll just do Rolly versus O'Hara Davies as a mandatory next, and Davies will beat him and we'll be done. No. That's not what's going to happen. That's not what's going to happen. Your ass is going to sit at home and you're going to be happy with Ryan Garcia versus Romero. And if you don't like it, don't watch it. That's what they're going to tell you. If you don't like it, don't watch it. And they may even sell that one for $85. Don't doubt me on that. So that's where we are. Yeah, this ain't over.
It's not over, bro. And I do think Tank will probably get the fight. The WBC will support it because they're going to get 3%, right? They're going to get a 3% cut both ways. And then guess what? If Ryan wins, they're going to get another 3% at least, right? Out of that. Mm-hmm. So they're not going to be against it at all. And that is the issue. Like, there needs to be something needs to be done about these sanctioning bodies, because it kind of sucks, because they're like Calix, guys like Barroso, like these guys need the sanctioning bodies. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And Dongo needed it to get
certain guys need these. So I don't want to, like, there's a lot of nuance to this. So I don't want to be like those guys that make blanket statements like, oh, we don't need them at all. Like, no, well, you kind of do. Right? Certain guys I know fighters that have needed that mandatory, like Spence getting that mandatory against Brook is the reason Brook got the fight, right? Yeah. I don't think Cal Brook fights Spence at that time if there's no mandatory, right? John Ryder would have never gotten a title shot against Canelo unless he was a mandatory. It wouldn't have happened, right? If you look at whoever, like this guys that just need it. Now, it's not perfect. I get that by far, but they're so corrupt, bro. Like, their level of corruption is absolutely ridiculous. It's a ridiculous level of corruption. And I just personally can't stand it. I am done with it. I am, there's something needs to be done. And they have so much power even amongst boxing fans. I had a discussion on the round table and I asked the question. If Bivol fights Beterbiev, right? And Mauricio says, no, we're not going to sanction it with the WBC because Russia, right? Like, would you as a boxing fan just acknowledge the winner of that fight as the undisputed champion? Mm-hmm. And it's like 50-50. Yeah. You have boxing fans that, no, you need all four bouts. Like, don't you guys have common sense? You know? Like, don't you, like, just know? Like, you know. Like, like, yes, the winner that fights the undisputed champion. Like, what are you guys talking about? But that's what we need to do, something about these fucking sanctioning bodies.
Yeah.
We need like a billionaire, somebody to buy them all out, and we just have one body, bro. It's needed bad. But most importantly, they need a checks and balances. Who checks them? They do investigations on themselves. Ain't nobody buying that shit. Or we're gonna have the board of governors look into it. Like, who the fuck is this board of governors? It's all made up, bro. It's all bullshit. Mm-hmm. Like, it's all window dressing. That's all it is. At the end of the day, that's all it is.
Yeah. And two things I want to touch on real quick is people ask me after the Tank Davis fight, could Ryan be a real champion, right? A real champion. What they mean is get a real belt, right? Not a Reggie, a real belt. And this is why I try to stay away from blanket questions, blanket statements. Is, of course he can. And that doesn't necessarily make him a better fighter for winning the legit title as opposed to not. In today's day and age in boxing, it's more so the fighter is bringing more credibility to the belt than opposite, right? It used to be the belt brought the credibility, and certain fighters need that belt for leverage, right? But also, he needs that belt. That's why what's happened to him on Saturday night was sad. He needed that. He needed that belt. And unfortunately, the power brokers needed that belt even more than he did because a lot of money was wrapped up in that. But of course, Ryan can become a champion at 140 now, right? Because if Ryan fights Rolly, which I'm sure we all see coming from a mile away, he's a champion now. It doesn't necessarily mean he's a better fighter, but he has the belt now. He's a real champion at 140, and they know what that brings, right? The WBA knows what Ryan Garcia having their belt brings, right? The power brokers know what that brings. It brings value to it in that he has a name, right? The other thing is it's becoming increasingly evident that Tank Davis's resume is fugazi. Like, and I'm sorry to say this to the Tank sexuals. And the sad part about this is, you know this. I love watching Tank fight. This has been the frustration for me is, man, they should just unleash this dude. Because you can't convince me that Tank Davis is afraid of anybody. He's one of those fighters who is willing to fight anyone. And what's bad about that is he's literally willing to fight anyone. Rolly Romero. When I watched Tank Davis versus Rolly Romero press conferences leading up to that fight, Tank was embarrassed to be on that stage. There's no doubt in my mind he's leaving those press conferences like, who the hell is this guy? What are y'all doing to me? But he's willing to fight anybody that's both good and bad. He's not afraid of anyone. That's a sad part about this is I've been saying for years, there's got to be something they're hiding with Tank Davis. There has to be some sort of red flag in sparring. Maybe he's a little punchy. Maybe he's a little chinny. Maybe it's the economic part of it. He's the most economical fighter in the sport. I'm watching him fight Ryan Garcia, and granted, it's Ryan Garcia. Maybe he's not as good as people thought, but he still looked great. He's still passed the eye test. That guy,
I just can't, Calix. I can't give him the he'll fight anybody good because he hasn't done it.
You need to see it.
He needs to do it. He needs to do what Canelo did when he told Oscar, I want to fight Lara. No, but I want to fight Lara.
I want to fight Mayweather. I want to fight Trout. No. I'm fighting him, and you work for me, so you're gonna make that happen, or I'm leaving.
It's time. He's gonna be 29 in November, bro.
You're right.
Like, I'm not gonna give him that. He needs to prove to me he wants those fights. And you know what? Hey, a lot of you guys out there calling him the face of boxing, and well, like I've been saying this since day one. He wants to be the face or a face of boxing, whatever it is. He's the new sheriff in town. Well, you know that old saying in the Westerns, right? This town ain't big enough for the both of us. So like, if you want to be the face of boxing, you got to do face of boxing shit. And you don't have the equity Canelo does. That's what I keep talking about equity with people. Canelo has a lot he's done. He has more room to work with, right? It's like people people have it the opposite, bro. The more Canelo does, like they act like he needs to do even more, right? Now, well, the more he does, he's got to do more and more and more and more. And I expect from him what I don't ask from other fighters, right? Mm-hmm. No, like I'm kind of like the opposite. If you've done more, you have more equity, and if you're more active, I'm going to look at it for what it is, and a Ryder fight or Yildirim fight's whatever to me, because I know the next fight's going to be a good one.
It's like earlier this year, right? When Matchroom signed Berlanga, and they're saying, "Oh, Canelo going to fight," but it depends. It once again goes back to unwrapping things for people, right? Yeah. If Canelo fights Berlanga in February and then Benavidez in May, then is that not acceptable? He's fighting the fight you want 3 months later. It's a stay busy fight. It depends on the situation, right? Yes. It goes back to Anthony Yildirim. He fights Yildirim in February. He fought a fight in December. He fought again in May. Unifications in between it. Like, do we have to explain it?
It has to be unpacked to people. It takes unpacking. Like anytime I have a Canelo conversation with people, you got to unpack shit. And then there's another word, perspective. They don't have any perspective.
No.
Like, there's no perspective, bro. It's I want Canelo to do this and that's it. If he fights, if Canelo can fight every month, then they'll want him to fight like they're doing every month.
Yeah.
It's like just stop and like relax. Can you relax for a moment? Like take a chill pill. All right. Like everything in boxing is like, but the point I'm trying to make is Tank has no equity. None. Tank has work to do. He's behind.
Way behind.
Tank has summer homework to do. He has summer school. You know what I mean? Canelo passes classes with flying colors. But you're getting mad at him. He wants to go he wants to chill for a little bit. But Tank, but you know what it is? Guys don't do shit. And then we hear, yeah, but those guys don't do anything. I don't expect anything out of them. I expect everything from Canelo. But I don't expect anything out of anybody else, though. I don't hold this. No. We need to start having the same energy for every fighter because that's why we are where we are. Mm-hmm. Everyone knows you will not accept Canelo holding a belt for 700 days without one fucking fight. You know you wouldn't. And you shouldn't. I would be saying the same thing. Canelo, what the fuck are you doing? Fight, dude. You know what I mean? But you need to start these guys are not in a position of like where they're nobodies. They talk about them like they're Barroso, bro. They talk about like they're in Barroso's position or something. Like Charles and Barroso's like in position. No, they're in very privileged positions is where they are, okay?
Yeah.
Like that's where they are. You get to hold a belt for 2 years and not defend it. You're a privileged motherfucker. You're closer to Canelo than Barroso in a totem pole. Like point blank. All right? You're not a victim here. Oh, but I don't blame him for not fighting for 2 years. I will not hold him in. I don't have the same standard. I will not, criticize him the same way. Poor Charlo. Pobrecito. Like, nah, fuck that shit, bro. These dudes have the ability to make fights happen. Charlo could sit down with Al Heyman and say, yo, Al, give me that fight with Plant. And you could, like, Plant called you out. You could do that fight. That's a good comeback fight. Like you could do these fights. So you could, what the hell is going on? No, but the thing is, it's like, what would they do if Canelo just fought every 15 months? Every 16 months, like Errol Spence? What would you guys do? What would you say? Yeah, there wouldn't be a Yildirim. There wouldn't be a writer in the resume, right? But if he only fought that often, the division wouldn't have moved as fast. We would still have 2 other title holders in the division. We would still have dudes not fighting each other like they weren't before Canelo showed up. Benavidez was not fighting the other champ before he showed up. I will hold him to that standard. He should have fought the other champions. I will not say things like I don't hold him to the same standard as do Canelo, because that's a cop-out. That's a cop-out to just criticize Canelo and nobody else. And at this point, it's getting tiring and it's getting old, bro. It's getting tiring and it's getting old. It's getting old because it's stupid. Like at this point, they were in such a privileged position that his manager and promoter said they were marinating the fight for 5 years with Plant. They're going to marinate the fight for 5 years. Canelo showed up. He fought Plant in 9 months. Canelo showed up to the division. 11 months. It should have been 9. Immediately fought Plant. Didn't wait around. Didn't marinate. Didn't talk to Plant. Hey, Plant, let's go ahead. Imagine he did that with Plant. Imagine if Benavidez and Plant were playing this stupid marination game. And they said, hey, Plant, let's make it a bigger fight. Let's marinate it. Let me talk to Billy Joe. And all 3 of us can marinate this for the next 4 or 5 years. Let's just stir the pot. Let's marinate it. We'll fight. Just fight every 15 months. Because people don't have perspective. They're not appreciative of the equity that Canelo built in the last 3 years. He's now going to be fighting 8 times. None. And if you say that, they don't argue the merits. Okay? They don't bring up the points. Right? They go straight to, it's tunnel vision with them. Either you're a fanboy or you're a fanboy. Like that. Right? Or the cop-out is, heavy is the head that wears the crown. So yes, it's like Canelo is just. I hold him to there's a difference between a higher standard, all right, and a double standard. There's a difference. Okay, there's a big difference between those 2 things. All right, and also impossible standards. That's also another thing. Yes, hold Canelo to a higher standard. Is he living up to that standard? Yes, he is. He's already living up to it. I guarantee you, Tank Davis, I'm going back full circle, Tank Davis, I hope I'm wrong, but he ain't going to live up to those higher standards. He's not. He's not even going to. I'm not giving him impossible standards. I'm not giving him double standards. I just want a higher standard. I want him as the face of boxing. That's what they called him, to fight the best opponent next, because he does not have that in his resume. Mm-hmm. Tank's never been in a unification fight. Tank's never been in any real title fight above 130. Fight the winner of Devin Haney Lomachenko. That's what I expect from you. And yes, I can ask that of you, because you already had your gimme this year. Like Ryan was your gimme. You had a gimme last year against Rolly. You've been having gimmies your whole fucking career since Pedraza. So your gimmies, you're out of gimmies. You don't have equity. You need to make up for that. You're not there. Like point blank, period. But I guarantee you, not only will he not fight the winner of Lomachenko versus Haney, not only will that fight not happen, Calix, he won't even fight the next best option. It's more likely he moves up and fights Rolly for that 140 belt than he actually fights anybody worth the shit. That's where we are. And all this is all Rolly's fault.
This is sad. That's sad. And we'll talk more about what we think Tank is doing next, because we got the lightweight fight on Saturday. Haney Lomachenko, Shakur Stevens is out there. And everything he's saying is true. But when it comes to Tank Davis, you talk about this when it comes to Pedraza. Overtime is becoming clear, crystal clear, evident that the resume continues to age poorly. It's Pedraza, he's losing fights. Isaac Cruz, they haven't stepped him up again yet, but Tank Davis theorem holds true. He's still a top 5 lightweight, right? Even though no quality wins at lightweight. Rolly Romero was about to lose to a 50-year-old man. Obviously, that win does not age well, particularly when Rolly Romero wins 2 rounds against Tank Davis. It's 2 to 3 rounds. It's sad. It's sad. And Mario Barrios, same thing. These guys lose. The resume continues to age poorly. It becomes evident and clear that they're scamming the market. That's another thing, another fallout when it comes to Rolly Romero is this resume that people are building up to be a good resume continues to wilter and fall apart. Rolly Romero was never a credible opponent at lightweight or junior welterweight. That's here is Rolly Romero. He's a clear example of many things we talk about. Clown show, job, overrated, all of it. That's Rolly Romero. If you want to package all of that into one person, it's Rolly Romero. To me, he's everything. And the people who are pushing him onto us, they're everything that's wrong about boxing. And that's a sad part. Here is 140 has been everything that's right about boxing. We've been doing a lot right. We've been pointing to that division to where we've been saying if all the other divisions behave like this division, we'd be getting somewhere. And then this clown show, hype job, enters the picture and blows it up. So it's sad. There are many things sad about what happened Saturday. There's many things funny. It definitely lived up to the hype and our expectations, right? But another sad thing about this, and I'll go back to it, is there is one guy, we didn't think he deserved the shot, but there's one guy that was at that circus on Saturday and is not a clown, and his name's Ismael Barroso. And it's sad to see guys like that continue to get hosed, just hosed. And I don't want to hear that, oh, I'm pro-fighter. I'm for the fighters when, you're capping more for Jamal Charlo's not fighting in 700 days than you are guys like Ismael Barroso, because there are plenty of them out there. Plenty of them out there. Just continue to get railroaded so they can sell us a false bill of goods. And all we're asking for boxing fans and all we're asking from other boxing fans is to, all you have to do is simply call for the right fights consistently. That's all you have to do consistently.
Yeah, just call for the fights.
But the thing is, they continue to build this artificial market around boxing and sell us these false goods, prepackaged. And then we open the pack and they're like, what the fuck is this? This is not what I wanted. This is not what I wanted. All we're saying is just build on an organic sport. Just make this a sport. And everybody is going to win. Rising tide lifts all ships. Everybody wins. The fans win. The power brokers win because they're working together. And, you know, they're accidentally going to build stars. They're accidentally going to make a bunch of money. Just give us an organic market in boxing. That's all we're asking for. And that's all I'm asking boxing fans to ask for is, you know, call this stuff out. Don't just say, oh, it's just boxing. Because there's a dude named Ismael Barroso out there who, you know, was doing all the right things. He was fighting a fight where he was an underdog leading up to this, where his wife is murdered by Venezuelan rebels. He still fights the fight, wins the fight. Whether we like the rankings or not, he worked his way up the rankings. He did everything the right way. And he's the one guy who isn't the clown at the circus is the one who gets slaughtered here. And the circus continues to go on. It's disgusting. Any final thoughts you got?
Yeah, we need boxing fans to stop virtual signaling for all these privileged fighters that everyone acts like they're in the Barroso position. And we got to feel sorry for them because they're inactive for 15 straight months. And I'm not going to criticize them because I don't hold them to a high standard. Only one fighter in the whole sport I hold to a ridiculous standard. That's it, right? No, yes, by all means, criticize everybody from Canelo to Tank. Everyone should be criticized. But we need to start criticizing everybody. Stop virtual signaling because one dude is going through a divorce, right? But he's a millionaire, right? Multi-millionaire going through divorce, right? Holding the belt for 2 years. But then you guys don't shed a tear. This, you know what this reminds me of? Like boxing fans are starting to turn into Jim Lampley. Would you like to cry about everything? He would cry about the dude in the truck at HBO that's retiring. Right, like, oh, I forgot the dude's name, but John, we want to thank you for everything that you did for us. And you were so good for HBO. We're gonna miss you. Like, okay, like
every legendary night's the guy.
You know, but when that one Russian fighter, when he fought the Cuban, I forgot their names, but on HBO that he got like he was like almost on his deathbed. You know, and he was in a coma, and induced coma for months, right? Was never the same, had to retire. When he talked about that on HBO, he just breezed through it like, well, yeah, if you guys want to donate, you know, go and donate to, and next week on HBO, like, if there was something to cry about, Lambert, nobody would give me shit about it. It's right there, right? Yeah. So boxing fans cry about the privileged millionaires, right, that don't do shit. Just mock us too. Like Errol Spence, I'm a fan of Errol's fighting. He's a great fighter. But when he's out there saying things, well, strip me then. When he knows you're not going to strip him, okay. Well, when you got your Mel Charlo calling out Canelo to a fight when he's telling Tim Tszyu he's injured, right? When you got Jamal Charlo inactive for almost 700 days, right? Dudes go out of their way. They put the capes on. You know what I mean? Superman and everything, bro. They're ready to defend those dudes, and then they try to shame us. Like, you don't know what these fighters go through. You don't understand that these guys put their lives on the line. Like what the fuck? Okay, and what Barroso doesn't put his life on the line? Every fighter on the planet puts their life on the line. Every single one of them, from the lowest level to the highest level, right? If anything, most deaths happen at the lower level, especially when there's more mismatches. All right. So spare me your little virtual signaling. Spare me. All right. That's whatever to me. Most deaths happen due to rehydration, but you guys want to defend fighters that do rehydration clauses, right? So spare me your fucking fake outrage. All right. Spare me, like just like I said last week on the HCP podcast. Spare me your crocodile tears for Jamal. Like, you know what I mean? Spare me all this dumb shit, because every fighter goes through shit. In fact, people go through shit. We all go through shit. Life hits us at the most worst times. The worst things can happen. You know, when I lost my dad, it came unexpectedly. Boom, just like that. It happened out of nowhere. Things happen in life, and you have to deal with them, right? We all have to deal with them. We all share a lot of common things on this planet, right? We all lose loved ones. We all know people that go through shit. We all experience stuff. We all, you know, deal with things at the job, or we deal with things at the career we're pursuing. Okay, we all deal with things. Some of us have certain things harder than others, whatever. But I'm not going to put on the cape, right, for a lot of these privileged fighters that a lot of you don't want to hold to a higher standard, right? Because for some reason, being inactive means you're not a high standard anymore, so you don't get criticized. No, like, I'm going to hold them to a high standard. I'm going to hold the Charlos to a high standard. I'm going to hold Spence to a high standard. Leo Santa Cruz, what the fuck has he been doing lately? He's fought, once in like, I don't know how many years? I got to hold you to a standard, right? And somebody said earlier in the chat, and I agree, the PBC holds way too many divisions hostage. It's getting old, all right? And there was a black eye, what happened to the sport on Saturday, all right? Barroso was robbed. At the very least, the WBC should denounce the championship and take it away from Rolly, right? That's the least they could do, all right? And I hope the PBC at the very least give this guy a good payday in his next fight, right? Because he'll fight anybody. Barroso will go in there, okay? He'll fight anybody, bro.
Yeah.
Like this dude will go in there. He'll fight Matias for you if you want him to, okay? He'll fight anybody, but pay him well, because I think he deserved that after what the fuck you did to him, okay? That I will say, all right? And with that said, pray for Rolly if he ever has to fight any of these other champions. Like, pray for him. I don't think God himself could help that dude. Like, I'm just saying, right? And shout out to Progress. One last thing. He recently tweeted out that it looks like we're going to get that Matias fight. Speaking of Matias, that's a hell of a fight. Like that. Besides the Tater rematch, that's the next. It's not Ramirez, sorry. It's Matias, the other champion, unification fight. You know what I mean? And then I believe Tater's in his last fight, so they could definitely do that fight on the zone with him and Regis. And before you know it, man, we're going to have a big unification. But you know what's going to hold up undisputed if that were to happen?
PBC.
This stupid-ass belt that they give to Rolly. You know what I mean? That. So we're going to see what happens with that.
What time we at tomorrow? We're doing HCP tomorrow.
The HCP podcast Tuesdays. It looks like 8 p.m. Eastern, which is 7 Central, 6 Mountain Time, 5 Pacific. It looks like that is the time. And look out for HCP X's, as we'll do those at random times.
Yep. And appreciate everybody coming through. God bless everybody. Have a happy Monday. See y'all tomorrow over on D-Style's channel, D-Style Boxing. We out. Peace.